All right, we are live. Cool. Hello and welcome to the Not My Job Pod. My name is Emily Gant and I am your host. And today we are talking with Sandi Field, who is currently an ESL teacher, but we've talked to a couple ESL teachers. So that's not what we're going to be talking about today. So what we are going to be talking about today is a series of many, 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 and I literally mean many. I have a list right in front of me of 24 jobs, 24 unique jobs that Sandi Field has had in her lifetime, which is just wild to me. Hello, Sandi.
Hi, how are you?
Good. It's good to be here. So I love that you sent me this list before we started. Some of these were new to me. I feel like
Oh,
the
really?
Sandi Field lore, the lore goes deep.
It does, it does. Yeah. Yeah, I've had a lot of weird jobs. I always say if there's a weird job out there, I've probably done it at least once. But I also spent a lot of time working in the restaurant industry. So that's a huge gap of it also, which is fairly common.
Though I think working in the restaurant industry in general has to be the hardest job ever to exist. I don't know that that's an unpopular opinion, but what would you say?
I think the restaurant industry should be like I think there should be a draft. Like I think people should be required to do 2 years in the restaurant industry just to live their life, just to understand how to treat other humans and how to work hard also at the same time. I think it should be required. It's super hard. And as if it wasn't hard enough, I like to make things harder on myself. So I wasn't just waitressing, I was also doing a position called expo, which is like between the cooks and the servers, making sure the plates are perfect and send them out. But it's a job that involves a lot of bossing and yelling and, my favorite things.
Definitely. How do you think, if it were required, like I love that idea, like military service for restaurant workers, everyone becomes a better person after 2 years in the industry. What traits would, how would humanity change?
Oh my God. I think let's just talk about Americans for a second. I'm gonna probably offend some. But most people around the world know that we're not the best travelers. We're not very nice. We are very demanding. We expect things to be a certain way. And I think if you had spent 2 years behind a waitress counter, like in a waitress uniform, that I think that you would know a little bit better just how to treat people in general and how to respond to people's stress. Like waitressing is stressful and people don't get that it's a very stressful position. I'm not just helping you. I'm helping six other families. I'm dealing with cooks yelling at me in the kitchen, and I just really want to go outside and have a cigarette. That was just my waitressing life. So yeah, like I just think it would make people be nicer to each other in the long run. At least I'd like to hope so.
Yeah. My mom made me be a waitress when I was younger, and I
Your
worked at
mom made
this
me.
French. No, no, literally, she made me. She was like, if you want to be a whole human and a whole adult, you have to go be a waitress for a while. So that was, yeah, that was always the stance. But at the same time, it was like I was awful. I was the world's worst waitress. I would put orders in my back pocket, and then somebody would be like, "Where the heck is my food?" And I'd be like, "I don't know. I guess the kitchen's just taking a while." Meanwhile, the order is like in my butt, like in my back
Oh
pocket,
my God.
just in my butt. No, not directly, not literally, but yeah, that was literally the whole thing. And then I would have to send somebody else out to be like, that other waitress is an idiot, and I'm here to take care of you now. And then we would split the tip.
That is a good strategy. I've never used that one. I should have tried that. I worked in a restaurant that we were very competitive as a staff we were those obnoxious people you see on like Saturday Night Live skits that memorize your order. So we were very competitive, like how many orders you could memorize and still make it out to the table with everything in the right place and with the right people. Did I make mistakes? Lots of them. Like lots of them. Did I keep on doing it? Hell yeah, I did.
That's fair. I mean, you're bound to make mistakes. Like that's just, yeah, I think that's like a part of service life. I don't know. I talk
Mhm.
about service life like I am a part of it. I was not. I was an awful waitress for like a year, 15 years ago. And then I was like, wow, I can never do this again. I will die.
Did they do any hazing at your restaurant?
No, there was no hazing.
Well,
I think the main hazing was just me being terrible at my job and then living in
okay.
fear. But people were relatively nice for the most part.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's definitely not the path for me. But I
Yeah.
do want to run because this list is just
Okay.
outright incredible, and I do want to
Thanks.
run. I do want to run through it and talk about all of the specific jobs in this list. We don't have to go into like a crazy story for each one unless you
It's
have
fine.
one, in which case
I'm
we
sure I
do.
do. Mhm.
But yeah,
Incredible
okay.
is
So
incredible is a much nicer word than embarrassing, though, by the way. So thank you.
no, I do think this is an incredible list. It's so diverse. I'm so excited to talk about it. And also, I love, before we jump in though, I love that something that you said recently was you were like, I'm not ambitious. I'm just trying to live a good life.
Yeah.
And I think that's super interesting. Because can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I don't think I always knew that. I mean, I always knew I wasn't the type of person that was going to get rich off my job. I was never interested in the kind of jobs that were going to get me rich. Even when I was a kid, it was like between being a teacher and a veterinarian, those aren't like rich people jobs. I thought about acting for a while, but like I wasn't good, so I don't know what I was thinking. But that would have been another struggle that like maybe the 1% actually gets rich off doing it. So, money has not been part of my outlook on success ever in my life. And now that I am an ESL teacher, I don't teach because teaching is my dream come true. I like it, I'm good at it, great, but I teach so I can travel. That's just my goal. And it doesn't make any sense for me to advance in a school I'm not going to stay at for more than a couple of years. So, yeah, we talk a lot, like I teach adults now, and we talk a lot about ambition, and that always comes up as like a positive characteristic. And I always feel kind of bad because I don't have ambition. It's just not, I'm not looking to succeed in a career or to build a big empire. I just really just want to be happy. And if that means living paycheck to paycheck, okay, fine. I'm happy. I'm having a good time. I'm traveling. I'm seeing the world. I don't have any ties. I'm not the 2.5 kids and a dog type of person. It's just not in the cards for me. I just want to grow old and be happy, and I might have to work until I die to do that, but it'll be worth it.
But I think that's kind of the trade-off to yeah, either living that style of life. That is the trade-off. That's literally the trade-off. It's like you get to be happy versus there are people who work like some job that they absolutely hate for 50 years and then they retire and they're too old to like go to the 50 countries that you've been to, you know? So
Yeah.
I think
My
that kind
only
of
regret is that I didn't realize all of this sooner. Like, I regret that I didn't travel sooner. I regret that I didn't realize it was okay not to have a traditional life sooner because I didn't realize any of this until I was 36. And I don't think it even dawned on me then. It took a few years before it really sank in. But up until then, when we read through this job list, I'm not gonna lie, I felt like kind of a failure sometimes because I wasn't doing anything substantial with my life. And now I just realize that, like, this was all building me and who I am right now, just like any other career would do. It just took, almost 30 jobs to do it.
no, but I think that's a good thing though. I have a friend who actually laughed at me because yeah, I was kind of this was back when I was at a different job that I'm at now, but I was a little bit stressed about work and she just started laughing and I was like, "What are you laughing about?" And she was like, when you die, and I was like, where are you going with this? She was like, when you die, no one's gonna be like, she was such a good growth consultant. I was like a little offended, but also I think that's like a really important outlook on life. Like, nobody, I don't want anyone to say that at my funeral. I want people to be like, yeah, she was funny. We had a good time. We hung out. We got to know, I don't know what I want. I don't think about that, but um,
Okay, wait. Note to self, change speech for Emily's funeral. Okay, okay, we're good.
Gosh, I'll be dead, so it doesn't matter. Go ahead, say what you want to say. Okay, so I'm gonna run through this list. All right, first one, swept hair and greeted customers at a family friend's salon. So you were at a hair salon.
Yeah, first job. I don't even really count it as like a real job because it was a really close family friend. It was like helping out your mom or dad or something and getting paid for it. But it was a real job, and I had to be professional for people that came in and stuff. But yeah, first like actual job other than like babysitting.
Okay. Okay. Good. Strong start. Strong start.
Well,
I was actually showing, because you sent over this list a little while ago and I was showing it to a friend and she was scrolling through it and she was just like, this just gets better and better. So here we go.
it does. It really
Um,
picks up towards the end.
it really picks up towards the end. Okay. Two, worked for a florist, slash balloon shop, had to deliver balloons in a costume and clown at parties.
Yeah, with like no training whatsoever. I mean, I don't know what that lady was thinking. I was young. I think I was like 18. But I didn't work in high school. I know a lot of people work in high school. My grandparents raised me. They really wanted me to concentrate on school and extracurriculars and things like that. So I didn't start working until I was like 18. So yeah, I crammed all of these jobs into a few years. But yeah, so there was a florist, and that was the first thing that like you had to learn how to make flower arrangements, but she didn't really teach you how to do that. To this day, I still don't really know what constitutes a good flower arrangement and what doesn't. Like, and I was making them for like 6 months. Like, I don't know like what I was sending out there. I just don't know.
You must be like,
And
did
then
I think it was pretty? Yeah.
exactly. There was more of a system to do the balloon bouquets than there was to do the flower bouquets. And so then you would make balloon bouquets also. That was a big part of the job, but also I had to do deliveries. And I didn't drive at the time. I didn't have a car, so I would wear like a gorilla costume while my grandfather took me to work. Like
Why were you a gorilla?
I mean, there were different choices. So when you ordered from them, you could choose what you wanted. There was like a gorilla costume, there was like a little old man, there was a clown. I'm sure there were some other ones, but God, this was like 30 some years ago. So I
Okay.
can't remember all of them. Those were the three that stood out to me the most. And I was not the person I am now. I'm still awkward, but I was shy and awkward then instead of outgoing and awkward as I am now. So it was really like I can remember the way my heart would beat every time before I had to get out of my grandfather's truck and walk into some place of business in a costume. But then as soon as you got in there, you would realize nobody recognizes you. You're wearing a mask. Nobody knows who you are. But the
You are a
person
gorilla.
but the person that you're talking to is like humiliated right now. And that's who everybody's focused on. They're not really focused on you. So I would be nervous every single time, but I would get over it like as I was doing it. Thankfully, I didn't have to sing because I'm not a singer. We had like
Mhm.
poems that the boss had written that were like themed to each costume. And so we would read the poem and then we would kind of lead everyone in singing happy birthday. And then sometimes I had to do clowning at birthday parties, which again, no training whatsoever. I had to make balloon animals and I could make like three things.
And I guess this was like the 90s too, so it's not like you can just go on YouTube and be like,
No,
let me
no,
look into what
exactly.
balloon animal.
Yes. So you go to a party and like little kids are coming up saying, I want this, I want that. Well, a dog or a crown, which one do you like better? Because that's what we've got here.
That's
So
the best I
yeah,
can do for you.
I was a bad clown.
That's okay. We can't be good at everything. Okay, wait. Next on this list though is Pizza Hut. Was this back in the Book It days when everyone
I
could like
think
read for free Pizza Hut?
I'm sure we probably still had it. I don't remember it. Pizza Hut felt like my first real job. And I don't know how much you remember about working in restaurants, but restaurants are a breeding ground for sex. Like, this was the first job I had where I had a chance to have like work, love relationships and things like that. I fell in love with a boy there that I fell in love with for years. Never had a relationship, it didn't get that far, but I was in love with him so much. And he's probably watching
What
this.
brought you? Why were you in love with the boy from Pizza Hut?
First it started because I kind of had like a little girl crush going on his sister who worked there. She was just so cool. She wore Doc Martens and she had this cool short haircut. And she was just one of those people that like is just like quirky and cool and you just want to be her when you're that age. And then she got her brother a job and he was just one of those charming guys that just got you. There's always one in a restaurant. There's always one. They're dangerous. Like there's always one. He was
But
just one of
also,
those.
are they? Do you feel like they're like a big, what is it? Big fish in a small pond? Do you think he would be charming outside of the Pizza Hut environment, or is he just
Yeah, because
charming
I mean,
because?
I was infatuated with this guy for like years after that.
Okay.
Yeah, so and let's be clear now. I know him now, and I hope he is watching this because I'll say I'm not the least bit attracted to him now. But
Well, it's been
like,
a few years, so that's fair.
it's not because he's aged. It's because what the hell was I thinking? Like, he was like 4 years older than me, and I was a confidence booster. And I think that's what a lot of restaurant guys do. Like, they get this little fan club going. And a fan club member, maybe the leader of the fan club, but I was a fan club member.
That's the title I'm gonna give you. It's gonna be like Sandy Field, leader of the Pizza Hut boy fan club.
Don't put that on my headstone, please.
I promise you I will not mention that at your funeral. Let's see. Then I'm gonna lump these together and correct me if they were vastly different experiences, but you
Sure.
worked at a Garfield's, an Applebee's, TGI Fridays, and a Red Lobster. So that's four. And Arizona is a hotel restaurant.
Mhm.
So those are like the five big
Yeah.
restaurant jobs after Pizza Hut.
Yeah,
Do
and
any of those stand out?
I could tell you
Yeah.
they were all exactly the same. Like they were all exactly the same. The only one that was a little bit different was Arizona's. Arizona's was a breakfast gig, and so I had to be to work at 5 a.m. And as you can attest, I am not a morning person, and I never have been a morning person. And
I bet
so
you were a ray of sunshine.
well, I mean, how much do we want to tell the viewers here? This is in the 90s when you could buy ephedrine over the counter at a gas station. And a friend of mine, we used to, I don't know if you did this when you were a kid. We used to use it when we were drunk. You would take a couple of them and it would make your head feel like buzzy when you touched it. And that was literally all it did. Like it was just like a fun party trick.
Ephedrine was, for the record, ephedrine was illegal by the time I was
Okay.
entering my party
Yeah,
girl era. So
as it should be.
we were not buying ephedrine at the gas station,
As
but
it
I'm
should
glad that you
be.
got to do that. I had Four Loco. I feel like the Gen Zs have Juul or whatever
Yeah.
they're, inhaling. Everyone's got their thing, and
Yeah.
if ephedrine's insane. Okay, so anyway,
It didn't. So then, so I had never used it like for any other purpose other than like fun at a party. And then, like days before I started my job, a friend and I were visiting another friend at her college. And she said, and I told her about, I'm really nervous. I have this job. I'm starting at 5 a.m. And she's like, oh, you know what? I have this huge bottle of ephedrine. Do you want some? And I was like, oh, I don't know. Like, how does that work? And she's like, oh, it's basically like caffeine pills. It'll just make you feel like more awake and you'll be able to, yeah. And I'm like 19, like, okay.
wait. Am I confusing this with something else? Wasn't ephedrine like the diet pill that you could take in the 90s? It was kind of like speed and it just like made you not want to eat. Okay,
You're not
we're thinking
confusing
of
it
the
at
same
all.
thing.
So she puts a bunch in a baggie for me. I take them home and I would just pop one before work every morning. And lucky for me, I didn't like the way they felt. So I never got addicted or anything. I always say, I never felt more awake. I felt just as tired as I would without them. I felt like someone was walking around holding my eyeballs open. That's what I felt like.
But you got to that restaurant shift at 5 o'clock in the morning.
I
So
sure
thanks,
did.
ephedrine.
Made it through my shift like a happy little girl. Yeah, so finally,
I,
like,
I
I
just
liked the way it felt,
I
and I
just want to
just,
say I've known you many years now, like almost what, like a decade longer? I don't even know. Roughly over a decade. And I always am just shocked when I get a new story out of you. Like this is a new one. This was not part of the original Sandy lore. That was
this episode can be the precursor to my book.
yeah, excellent.
So
Oh
yeah,
my God.
I didn't like the way it feels. Years later, I dated a guy like 100 years later. We were talking about like the drugs that we'd done, and I hadn't done much. You know, smoked a little pot, right? Did a little mushrooms, like nothing major. And I mentioned this ephedrine, and he looks at me and he goes, "Sandy, that's what they make speed out of." And I was like, "What?" Oh,
I bought it at the gas station. Wow. That's fantastic. Okay, so restaurant jobs. So just ephedrine for the morning shift,
yeah, yeah.
not during the day.
Everything else
Okay.
exactly.
Any other call outs from the restaurant life? TGI, which had the best uniform?
I worked in TGI Fridays in the day of flair. Like if you guys have seen Office Max and they talk about the 20 pieces of flair with their fake TGI Fridays, that is 100% true. We would have a meeting every day before work. They would count our flair. For those of you that don't know what that is, we wore suspenders and we had to wear like pins, and you could choose your own pins and get creative with it. And the TGI Fridays that I worked at, I actually opened the store with them, which I feel is a totally different experience because that's like joining a cult. Like they train you to be super excited about this flair and to be really into this whole, mantra and everything. And so like all of the servers, like it wasn't just like, I gotta wear this. It was like, what can I wear? I had like sparkly tights, big hats, lots of I'm
Did you have to
embarrassed.
buy this for yourself though, or do they give you like?
Oh no. You got your suspenders. That was it. Maybe a
I'd be
couple
going in
TGI
there
Fridays,
plain.
but also like in the news, things just weren't expensive like they are now. You could buy like these stupid big hats for probably like $10. Like I don't think we were spending that much money on it, and if we were, we didn't care.
You're like, I looked great in my fancy tights and my Fridays flare.
Yeah, I had a pair of leopard print tights that I looked so cute in those, seriously.
I love that for you. Okay, so then we're doing a little bit of a career shift in this next one. The
Mhm.
right start selling supplies for babies and toddlers got promoted to assistant
Yeah.
manager. So you went from taking ephedrine, sorry, I'm just making fun of you, taking ephedrine to wake up for a 5 a.m. restaurant shift to selling things for toddlers. How did that go?
Yeah. Well, that's the natural flow, right? That's what usually people transition to after that. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it was my first retail job, like a real retail job, and that was weird. It was also the first job. I hope nobody watches this that I don't want to see this. Should I say this? It was the first job where I realized I could manipulate people. Mm, yeah.
Mm. But
I
you kind
had
of have to do that in retail, don't you? Like,
But
because
it
you're
wasn't
trying to
about
like
the
sell this.
sales. Yeah, there was a
Can you give me
different
an example?
manager. There was a different assistant manager. And my boss and I, the manager and I, like, she was cool, but like, we didn't know each other very well. One night we were doing like inventory or something, just me and the manager, and we started talking and getting to know each other, and we realized we both smoke pot. I mean, that always makes friendships at work. We realized we both smoke pot, and we bonded over that, and then we started bonding over more and stuff. And the girl that was the assistant manager was like the opposite of us. She was a very good little church girl. Wrong with that, but just very much the opposite of us. And they didn't have anything in common. And I mean, I don't want to go into a whole big long story, but like, I didn't do anything terrible. I just really let my manager know how we were good friends and maybe this other girl and her didn't have much in common. And also the other girl had some other aspirations that I might have pumped her up about.
I feel like in the context of, a retail job, you look back on it and you're like, oh, that was, maybe I was being like a bad person. But like then we think about the corporate world and
Yeah.
that's just
Yeah.
office politics. That's
Yeah. I
trying to
was
get
just
ahead. And
nothing.
and I will note that on this list, this is the one where you're like, I got promoted to assistant manager.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
maybe your
Yeah.
office politics worked. But then, sorry,
No,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I just think I definitely didn't get promoted because I was the best person for the job. I got promoted because I was the one the boss liked the most.
But that's every job.
Yeah,
That's
but why
literally
did that
every job.
happen? Okay, you're making me feel better about being a bad person.
No, but I think seeing those themes between like corporate world, tech world, my
And this is why
experience at
I'm not
least is,
ambitious, because I'm not like that.
yeah, but I genuinely think 9 times out of 10, granted, there are people who are just really fantastic at their job and they're really genuine people and they get promoted, but 9 times out of 10, it's the person who's good at the politics who gets promoted. it's not like there aren't thousands of memes on the internet because the people who have like the top tier position are like good at what they do. Like the
Yeah.
number of times that you have to, especially when you're earlier in your career and you're answering to someone that you're thinking to yourself, this person doesn't really know what they're talking about,
Yeah.
is just astounding. So I think that's universal.
I think it didn't make me feel so bad forming the friendship with my manager because I honestly loved her. We were really good friends. She was honestly like a great friend. I think it more felt bad looking back at it that I was like talking in the other girl's ear, like trying to get her to quit her job. And eventually it worked. Yeah, I think that's the part that I felt bad about. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I shouldn't feel bad, but also that's why I don't work in the corporate world because I just feel icky. I don't like it.
No, that's fair. And also I think it's a sign of a maybe a more decent person that you can actually look back on something that happened like decades ago and be like, nope, that was me. I was the bad person in this
Yeah.
situation. Like I was
Yeah.
the villain in the story. Yeah. I think when you can look back on past events and be like, nope, nope, that was me being a terrible person. That's valuable. That's a valuable skill to
Yeah.
cultivate.
I'll take that.
So just a little happy spin. Okay, wait. Next one though, you worked at a casino.
Yeah, I went to Vegas. My mother and her girlfriend were working out there at Harris Casino, and at the time that I went, my mom and I were not on good terms. My grandma was being like the go-between, and I was trying to find a place I could waitress and get health insurance because that's not usually an option. And my grandma said, "I think the only place I know of that you could do that is Vegas, but you wouldn't go there." And I'm like, "Why wouldn't I? Yeah, I would." So yeah, so then I said to her, well, I'll think about it, but like if I go there, this isn't like, because my mom was living in Vegas. I said, this isn't to like, form a new connection with my mom. And she's like, yeah, okay. And then I was working at a restaurant. I was working at Applebee's. My grandma called me because I hadn't started working yet and she knew that. So, because she called me on the house phone because we didn't have cell phones yet. My grandma called me on the house phone at Applebee's. It's so weird. And she goes, your mother says if you want a job and a place to stay, you can come out there in 2 weeks. And I was like, okay. Like this was not supposed to be about us and our relationship, but you're giving me a job and a place to stay and I get to go live in Vegas. Like, okay. So I did that. I went to work. She got me a job. They worked at Harris Casino, but when you start there, you don't have a permanent position. So you're on call and sometimes they'll put you on a couple of shifts. And I was getting a lot of shifts because my mom and her girlfriend were friends with my manager. And so I did get a lot of shifts that way, but I was mostly on call. So sometimes they would go for a week and not call you at all. And I wasn't getting along with my mom and her girlfriend after I'd been there for a while. And I'd been working at Harris for a while, but they hadn't called in like a week. And it was 4th of July coming up. And I just knew you're not going to call me on 4th of, you're not going to call me for a week and then you're going to call me on 4th of July. Like, because we had a rule if you didn't answer your phone, if you didn't come in when they called you, you had like 2 warnings and then you're fired. You had to
Nice.
go in. And I told my mom's girlfriend, I'm not going in if they call me. And she got mad at me because, of course, they got me the job. I totally understand that now. But at the time, it's all mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, of course they did call me and I just ignored the phone. And then we got in a big fight and that's when I left Vegas. But the job itself was crazy money. Oh my God, Vegas, like it's a money tipping city, but you have no idea. Um, there was a time where I worked different restaurants. They like kind of like moved me around sometimes wherever they needed me. But I did a lot of work in the buffet at Harris. And I was carrying like a big stack of dishes and I couldn't like move or anything, but I had an apron around me that had my stuff in it. And this man taps me on the shoulder and said, "Excuse me, miss, do you have a straw?" And I was like, "Oh yeah." And I like somehow managed to get the straw and like put it behind me. I never saw the man's face. He took the straw and put $20 in my hand. Like, for a straw.
And you're like, I'm so glad I could be here to help.
There were so
I'm
many
ex
instances like that. It was amazing money.
Yeah, I feel like I'm excited to tie that comment in and compare it to one of the jobs later related to tips.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
Oh, by the way, because we've already moved from Wisconsin at this point. In Wisconsin, Wisconsin is one of the few states that at the time, I don't know what they're at now, we were only getting paid 2.33 an hour plus tips. So we weren't even getting minimum wage. Your paycheck would be like, because they took the taxes from the tips out of your paycheck. So your paycheck for 2 weeks would be like $6. So
I
this
think
was
that's
the
still the
first,
case.
it's only
I
in a
don't think
couple of
the
states.
Yeah, but I don't think the minimum wage has actually changed since like 2007, which is
Yeah.
wild in the United States, but
But
states are
most
still
states
doing
do
that.
pay minimum wage. There are only still a few states, I think, that don't pay that. But it was 2.33 an hour. So I moved to Vegas. Vegas is unionized. So I went from making 2.33 an hour to making over $8 plus tips. Oh, and that
Mm.
was I had to join a union too. That's the only time I've ever been in a union. So I joined the union for that. So yeah, I went from making 2.33 an hour plus Wisconsin tips to making $8 an hour plus Vegas tips. Like it was crazy.
It's almost like unions work.
Who would have thunk
It's
it?
almost like it's almost like if you're, in a collective workforce and you're
Yeah.
in a union, you get paid more as a general rule. I don't know, but yeah, I won't go into my stance on union. Germany, obviously, I live in a country that's very pro-union. The majority of people in Germany, well, I don't know if it's the majority actually, but a lot of people here in a unions.
Really?
It's quite normal. But like, yeah, I feel like when I talk to people in the United States about the fact that I joined a union in Germany, they're like, "You commie?" Like, I don't know. People just
Yeah, it has
like,
a really bad stigma to it.
yeah, like it definitely has a really bad stigma. But ultimately, like the only reason that the average worker only has to work 40 hours a week is because of unions. The fact that there's a minimum wage is because of unions. The fact
Yeah.
that, you can only work 8 hours a day and they can't work you for like 17, 18 hours in a row is because of unions. So
I
they're
didn't know
not
anything
they're not all
about
bad.
it. I didn't know anything about it. And when I got there, my mother was just like, sign this. And I was like, what is it? She's like, you need to join the union. I'm like, why? And she's like, because they fight for your wages and it's not fair to take them if you're not going to join the union and pay your dues. And I was like, okay. And she's like, and people bug you in the hallway if you don't do it.
But I think that sort of like social pressure is kind of what gets people thinking about these things more so.
Yeah.
I know the more friends that I talk to in Germany about how I'm in a union, and then I have a couple other friends who are in unions as well, and it's just funny, like
There's a
talking
union for
to
your job?
another. Well, there's like a general union. IG Metall is like the biggest union in Germany, and then you can join
Okay.
that, and they represent all tech workers. But it's not just work stuff. Like they also offer legal services. When I signed on for a new job, I just had them review the contract, make sure everything was okay and in my interest in like legal. They have discounted services to like help you with your taxes. There's tons of services for workers that you can get done through your union that aren't
What is
related to like
America doing with their life? Come on, get it
I don't
together.
know. I don't know. But unions definitely have a stigma in the United States. I think they
Mhm.
still have even, I don't know, there's maybe a slight stigma here. I think people are surprised when I say that I pay union dues, but honestly,
But
I found it really valuable. It's been like an added support system since being here, which is
for
really
sure.
nice, especially with things like taxes. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to run through some of these a little bit faster because
Yep,
I
for
do
sure.
want to spend some more time on some of the
Yep.
saucier ones at the end.
Good luck
Okay,
editing.
so AI is going to do it for me. I work in tech, let's not forget.
That's true.
Okay, sold makeup and did makeovers for cosmetic company. I
Again,
don't know the name of it, but
Merle Norman, it's similar to Avon. It's like an old lady kind of makeup thing. And again, not enough training. I worked there for like 6 months. I still don't really know how to do makeup. So yeah, no, that was not the job for me.
fair. Um, Daycare worker for an in-home daycare.
Yeah, not too much to say there. Just that, like, I'm not saying her name, so I can say this. We broke the rules a lot. We always had too many kids. Not by many, but like more than we should. But
Hmm.
yeah, it was an interesting experience. I worked with some autistic kids at that daycare and some other special needs kids at that daycare. So I learned a lot just about working with people with different abilities.
Interesting, interesting. And then yeah, there's a couple like kids related ones because you were a nanny for your aunt's daughter. You were a school lunch lady.
So cool. Oh my God. I got to do that one for a really short period of time because they did not drug test me right away. And then they did. And then I had a little pod in my blood system. But like the boss was really cool. He was like, I hate to fire you for just a little bit of weed. So why don't you give me your notice so this doesn't go on your record? And I was like, that's rad. Cool. Thanks. Like, yeah, it was really cool.
Which
But like, mhm,
it's so funny to think about now because, obviously in so many US states, weed is completely legal. So many
yeah.
studies have been done to show that I'm not saying it's not hurting, developing brain cells or whatever. It's probably killed a few brain cells in all of us, but like the fact that it's so much less detrimental than alcohol, and for so long people just grouped like weed and, whatever
Yeah, this
ephedrine.
was
Ephedrine was legal
California.
and weed was not.
This was California. You can stand on the street and smoke weed in San Diego now. Like, what? That's so
Yeah.
weird. And, granted, I was working with kids and stuff, but again, it's not like a real drug. I don't do real drugs. I couldn't even handle ephedrine. Come on. It's not like I'm doing like hardcore drugs. That's never been who I am. But it was such a fun gig. I was really disappointed. It wasn't your typical lunch lady job. There was like kind of just a middle school, so it was that age, like sixth and seventh grade, I think, or maybe fifth and sixth grade. And they had like a snack bar thing that you kind of just rolled out and you sold them whatever they wanted. And we got pizzas from Domino's, I think it was, and Chick-fil-A chicken sandwiches, and a bunch of fruit and stuff like that. And then the rules were every day when the kids finished lunch, I was supposed to throw everything away. But the boss did say nobody's gonna notice if you leave with food. So like
You just take everything with you.
my roommates were loving life and we were getting free pizza, Chick-fil-A's and fruit on the daily. Like
You're
it
like,
was
hey,
great.
hey, adult roommates, do you want a milk box or
Yeah, and like I didn't have to wear a hairnet or anything like that. So I wasn't like the ugly old lunch lady that you imagine when you're a kid. I was like the cool lady that just brought the pizza. The kids loved me. Like, come on. It was a great gig. I felt really bummed that I couldn't keep it.
do you feel that middle schoolers are scary?
I do after teaching them. As the lunch lady, it was easy. I was just the fun lady at recess time. But after teaching all different ages, middle schoolers are my nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just see like a group of them and like they scare me more than any other demographic. There's just something about seeing a gang of like teenagers and they look small and I just see them and the way that they're standing and I don't want to be anywhere near them. They're just scary and I don't like it.
Well, it's because they have the ideas and the thoughts of a teenager, but they still have the capabilities of a child. Like, they can't handle all these emotions they're having, so they're just assholes. Like, just the way it works out. I don't
Yeah, I
blame them.
mean me,
I was that way in middle
yeah.
school.
Absolutely. I know I was awful. I was awful in middle school. However, now when I see a group of teenagers, I'm like, I want no part of that. Okay. Next one before we get okay, wait, we have IHOP night shift waitress, but that kind of falls into school, not school, well, not school at all. That falls into
Into
restaurant
the
work.
waitressing, but I did get to work with all the crackheads that time. Like, it was such a different job. Like, literally, like, that's
You were like,
when you're working the night shift, so you're getting the people when they leave the bars, and you're getting the people that don't sleep. And also, all of the staff did not sleep. I don't want to throw IHOP under the bus here, but I was working with one cook and one waitress who were in the parking lot doing drugs and having sex while I was trying to cover the restaurant. So, crazy job. Crazy. That might be the craziest job of all the jobs, like when you really boil it down.
I haven't even gotten to like what I see is like the craziest, most interesting one on the list. And you're over here telling me that IHOP was the craziest job you ever had.
That's the
IHOP.
distinction.
Oh yeah, sorry. IHOP night shift, the
Yep.
craziest job you ever had, thanks to the crackheads.
Yeah. And the
Was there
drunks.
ever an issue and the drunks? Was there ever an issue like trying to get someone to leave, or you had to like call the cops, or
Not for me. My biggest issue was really just with the cooks and the waitresses because they were just doing whatever they wanted and I'm trying to help the people all by myself and like it was just frustrating. There were definitely some times, but like, you know me, it takes a lot to freak me out. There was a guy there that I always felt bad for. He was a homeless man, probably had schizophrenia or something. I'm not here to diagnose anyone, but he would talk to himself very angrily in his seat when you weren't there. But as soon as you went over to take his order, he was the most polite, most sweet. He would have a conversation with you, just be adorable and nice and lovely. And as soon as you walk away, he'd go back to his argument. But yeah, such a nice guy. I'd sneak him some free tea and get him some leftover toast, like, so yeah, it was interesting.
Okay, okay. And then, so then I feel like, was that before or after you were a security guard at Macy? Well, you weren't a security guard, you were watching the cameras and catching shoplifters.
Long before, yeah. I got that job after the club, yeah, but I was
Okay,
not.
okay, okay. This is the perfect segue into, I think, what is I consider a main part of Sandy lore.
The defining job
When
of my life.
No, this isn't the defining job of your life, but a lot of good stories do come from this one. Being the cocktail waitress and door girl at a strip club. What led to that, and
Mhm.
how many years? How long were you there?
Yeah, well, let's start there. 7 years, about 5 years too long. Yeah, when I started that job, honestly, I was the last person you would expect to work there. I was still pretty like shy, talkative. I've always been talkative, but I was still pretty like shy, a little bit awkward and stuff. Um, I've never once been confident about my looks in the kind of way that you would expect someone that's going to go apply at at a strip club to work at to be. So yeah, but at the time, I had just lost a job through a series of events. Mind you, I don't think we've mentioned this. All these jobs that I've had, I think I've only been fired once. And this was not the time. So this was just a series of events that I just had become jobless. And I needed a job fast. I needed to pay my rent and I needed to make money fast. And I saw an ad for the strip club at hiring for cocktail waitresses. And I was like, I bet that's fast. Like I bet that's a lot of money real fast. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to go apply for this. I went to the first like interview with one of the managers who later I'm realizing that I don't think I was his type because he gave me the old I'll call you, which I took for serious. And becoming the door girl later, I know now that I'll call you was not in any way gonna happen. But I kept following up because God, I needed to pay my rent. I needed a job and I thought I could do this. And so somehow I managed to get a job with the other manager who I was apparently exactly his type because he hired another girl that we used to get confused as twins all the time. So yeah, I guess I was just exactly his type. He gave me the job. I did have a second job at this time. I was also working at the daycare at this time.
Okay, wait. So you were working at a daycare in the morning, and then in the evening you would swap
Yeah.
over to the strip club where you were working either at the door or as a cocktail waitress.
Doesn't everybody do that?
Yeah, that seems like a really normal career line of work. Yeah, that seems pretty
Obviously.
normal.
Yeah, so I remember the reason I remember that is because I remember talking to the people at the daycare about how scared I was about my first day. I was talking to them the day before my first day. And the uniform was fishnet tights and a like thong, but like a dancer's thong, which is thicker than like your thong underwear. It's quite thick
Hmm.
and even the butt strip is like about this thick. And then like a tank top that had the club's name on it. And I was really nervous. I'm like, I'm gonna be wearing a thong to work tomorrow. All day long, I'm gonna be wearing a thong. I'm gonna be wearing a thong. But once I got there, you underneath the fishnets, you have flesh-colored dancer tights, which are really thick. They're like leggings, they're that thick. So you put on these dancer tights, and then you put on the fishnets, and then you put on the thong, and you feel more dressed than you thought you were going to feel.
Okay, so it's like basically conservative. It's a
Yeah,
conservative
because
wardrobe.
like you think you're seeing my butt, but you're not really seeing my butt. You're seeing these like half-inch thick tights that are butt colored.
Secrets of the strip club.
So yeah, I did it. I did it. I was a cocktail waitress, and then about 2 years into it, I dislocated my shoulder, not at work, completely at home. I dislocated my shoulder, and at the time, the waitresses were rotating shifts at the door. We'd had a permanent door girl, but she'd gotten fired. And so the waitresses were rotating shifts. And so when I started working up there, I convinced them, I showed them the value of keeping one major person up there most of the time because it's important to recognize VIPs. It's important to recognize people that have been banned, which happens a
Mm.
lot. And it's important to feel like that front desk is your domain when you're up there. It's important to feel that way, not just like I'm filling
Mhm.
in for someone. So I convinced them of the value of that. So I was doing 5 days a week at that point, and then the waitresses were rotating in on my days off. And
Mhm.
so I ended up doing that for about 5 years. So total of a little bit over 7 years that I worked there.
Did you
And
like
again,
waitressing better, or did you like the door better?
no, I like the power. I've always this started out with the waitressing when I got myself into the expo part of the job. I've always put myself, even though I'm not ambitious and I don't want to be in charge, I still have always put myself in a position of power and getting to tell people what to do. That does make me happy.
Okay.
I don't want to be the boss, just a boss.
A boss of someone or something.
Yeah, I'm not the boss, but I'm bossy, and I need someone to make that okay. So
Yeah.
yeah, like I liked the power up there. I'm not gonna lie. I liked the power.
How did that work then if you had somebody who came in and you're like, you were banned like 2 weeks ago, dude.
Sure, it
What's kind of
happened
the
all the time.
what's the process? And
Yeah,
how
it
did you
happens all
remember
the time.
these people?
Well, after like maybe about 2 years before I left, we got a really cool computer system where we actually scanned your IDs into our system. And
Hmm.
so when I scan your ID, it'd pop up that you were not allowed. Before that, we had, you know, pictures and memories and things like that.
Okay.
And if I'm working 5 days a week and you made a big enough fuss to get kicked out for good, I was probably there. I'm not going to forget it. So that's pretty easy to remember. And so, yeah,
Hmm.
like, if someone's trying to come in, obviously I tell them, I'm sorry, you're not allowed inside. If they become a problem, then I become a problem. I'm good at being the bitch. Like, sorry, I am. And I enjoy it sometimes. I'm a really nice person until I'm not. So, that's
I
that
don't
is
know though, like, is that really being a bitch? Like,
oh, I was. Oh,
serious. No, no, but you were only being that way to people who have, because I assume in order to get kicked out of a club like this, like you have to like either assault one of the dancers or throw a
yeah.
drink at someone or so like you're being awful, awful to people who have done awful things. No?
Right. Even so, it has that ripple effect. Other people that are standing around that don't know that this person is being awful and is just watching you be awful, suddenly it looks like they're just reacting to you. So you don't want to like have other people be turned off by this idea. And it's addictive. So then, sometimes I'm bitchy to people that don't necessarily deserve it. And, but like, so yeah. So I had a lot of control over the door. And then if it's necessary, I have giant bouncers that I can call on a walkie-talkie at the drop of a dime. Most of the time there's one or two standing around there, but a lot of times they're inside, they're out patrolling the parking lot. There's a lot of times where I'm alone and it's my job to keep someone out of the club. I say that in present tense, like I'm still doing it because I'm getting fired up. But yeah, like anybody could, like you ask anybody in the city of Oceanside, and they would tell you one of two things. They either love Sandy and she's a badass girl at the front door, or they hate Sandy and she's the bitch that wouldn't let them in. Like, there's
But
no,
isn't that just kind of that's the life of like in Berlin, for example, all the clubs are like blocked by you need to appease this bouncer. This bouncer looks at
yep,
you, decides your vibe, and is like, hey, yeah, you fit the vibe of the party, you can come in, or you don't fit the vibe of the party, go somewhere else. And
yeah,
it's always scary because you're like standing in this line thinking to yourself, I need to appeal to this bouncer, but really I can just be myself and then hope for the best. But at the same time, it's very
yeah. Yeah, that's how
It is,
I feel.
it's a position of power. It's a position of power.
Well, and we got raided one time because the club that I was in, I could talk, I think I can say anything about it now because it's out of business.
Okay.
The club that I was in Oceanside, and it was right across the street from the Oceanside Welcome Center. And they did not want us there. If you go to Oceanside, California now, you will see what they wanted Oceanside to be then. It's very touristy now. There's a lot of trendy restaurants and things, but it wasn't like that now then. It was just your basic, slightly ghetto beach town. And I'm saying that with endearment because like that's why we loved Oceanside, because we were slightly ghetto. Like, so yeah, it was just a totally different thing, but they didn't want us there. Only trying to get the one and only strip club shut down. And the owner of our club, like, he's not going to shut this club down no matter what you do, because this was a strip club in the same town as a Marine base, and it's the only strip club 45 minutes in any other direction. So you're not going to just give that away. Like, you have the moneymaker, like, yeah. So they tried to get us shut down constantly. And it turned out that the police were doing like an undercover sting operation on us. Like,
What were they trying to catch?
anything and everything. And the thing is that my boss was smart. He understood that a lot of clubs do shady things and a lot of clubs do bad things. And a lot of clubs have back rooms where stuff happens. We didn't have any of that. I can say that after working there for 7 years. He ran a good, clean club. We had random locker checks to make sure the girls weren't hiding drugs or things in there. The girls had limits on how much alcohol they were allowed to have in one night. Like, he ran a good, clean club because he knew the city wanted to shut him down. And so they tried to set us up. There was a bartender that worked there and she had back problems and she took medication for the back problems. And they'd been coming in undercover looking for anything that they could bust us for. And they saw her with that. So they set her up. So they sent in an undercover officer who had been coming in for a while at that point and just looked like a regular customer. And he for a while had been complaining about problems with his back, and they'd shared stories and stuff because this was all part of the long game. And then finally he on like the big day, he came in and he was sitting with her and he was complaining about his back problems, and he was like, "You think I could get one of those pills from you? Like, I'll buy it from you." And she's like, "No, like, this is my prescription. I need it. I legit use it every day. I can't spare one because that's one I don't have." And he's like, "Oh, come on, like, I'll pay for it." And she's like, "It's not about the money. Like, it's really, I need my pills." And he just kept pestering her and pestering her and pestering her. And so finally she said, "Fine, I'll give you one. I don't need your money for it. Don't worry about it. Just like take the pill. Kind of like, just leave me alone, dude, you know?" And so she gave him a pill and he was like, "Here's $20. Take $20 for it." She's like, "I don't need the money. Just take it. Like, just go be better or whatever, you know?" And so he kind of pestered her to take the money. She wouldn't take the money. So finally he left the $20 on the bar, like looking like a tip, and walked away. And she
No.
yeah, she left it there for a while to see if he was going to come back, and he didn't come back. And so finally, she picked up the $20 the second she did. Boom, 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 because there were others in the club. So
Were you there watching this?
I couldn't see any of the inside. I dealt with it on the outside. So what happened was, so I'm sitting at the front desk, and the leader of, I don't know who they were, the cops, the SWAT team, whatever, they were fully decked out in like black t-shirts and bulletproof vests, like, we're gonna do something. It was just ridiculous. It was such an over show. And so he comes up to me and he shows me his badge and he says, "I need to talk to the manager." And the manager that night happened to be the owner's wife. And so I said, "Sure." Called her up on the walkie-talkie, and I was like, "Hey, I have a police officer at the front door, and he says he needs to talk to you." While I'm saying that one sentence, they're filing in. Officer after officer after officer, they're filing in. It was insane. Like, I must have watched like at least 15 of them come in. It was crazy.
And for comparison, like how many people are actually at the club?
It was a full night. It was like a Friday or Saturday night. We were packed. We were full. Like it was insane. And so I'm standing up there with this leader dude, and then my boss comes up and she's talking to him. One of the other guys goes into the DJ, who is my friend, and tells the DJ that he needs to use the microphone to make an announcement. So they make an announcement and they tell the customers that they've blocked the door. You can't leave without showing ID. So everyone's going to need to show ID. And then as long as you show ID, you can leave. And so they went through all of the customers and they all showed ID. And oh, I forgot to mention, I'm an amazing door girl and I'm really good at my job. And we had a full house that night and the police showed up and we had not one person get busted with a bad ID or no ID because I'm awesome.
Nice. That's a win. You're like there were 15 cops there and not one ID card was out of
Yeah.
place.
I used that same speech to get a raise, which is something they had never given a door girl in the history of the club.
Actually, that's fair play. Like, 15 cops come in and you're like, nothing bad happened to us because I actually checked all the IDs. So please,
Yeah.
money. Thank you.
Yep. So they didn't bust us on that. They brought in the fire marshal. They tried to bust us on some sort of like fire hazards or anything. They couldn't find
Wait,
anything
wait.
they could
So
bust us on.
after all the craziness and
Mhm.
that whole like nutty evening where like all those officers still they couldn't actually get anything out of that.
No,
It was just
they did take the girl that left the pill, but as far as I know, she also like she had to go to court and stuff, but she also was not found guilty because she didn't do anything wrong. So she didn't have to serve any time other than the embarrassment of the whole issue. But
yeah.
she also didn't ever come back to work at the club, so I don't know the whole story with her.
Hmm.
But yeah, they tried everything. They went to the locker room and they cut locks off the lockers. There were no drugs because our boss does random checks. You're not going to find anything that he wouldn't have found. So the girls aren't
Yeah.
stupid, like they tried.
I guess what do you think of yeah, I guess just in general, like strip clubs now. Like do you have I guess some people are very like I think outside the United States they're not even popular. The concept of like a strip club is like very weird
Um,
abroad. Maybe not in Asia, I don't know.
yeah.
Some places we lived in they existed, but not really.
Also, like you say, like they don't exist, and then you live in Berlin where they have sex clubs that don't exist in the United States because they don't need strip clubs. They have much cooler, more open-minded things. You know what I mean? We
True.
don't have access to anything a little naughty, and that's all we have. Maybe I'd have a different opinion if I worked at a different club, but like I said, we ran a clean club, and it felt more just like a bar with boobs on stage.
Yeah. I mean, you know me, I don't have anything against
No, I
I'm
know,
I'm very
yeah.
pro sex work,
Yeah.
not for myself, but yeah, if that's, a job that somebody Lord knows if any, sex worker wants to come on this podcast, please. I have so many questions, but like,
I'm
yeah,
gonna
no,
try to find
definitely
you one.
pro. Yeah, we got to find me one. Yeah, I have so many questions, but yeah, I think, sex work is 100% work
Yeah.
it's harder work than a lot of the things that a lot of us do. I'll say
And
that.
it's just a job, and it's a job where they're doing things that a lot of people do in a lot of same jobs. Um,
Yeah.
like, what's a Hooters waitress is making money off her body. And at the door girl, like as a door girl, I'm fully dressed, but you better believe I'm wearing my best push-up bra and my deepest cut dress to get some more tips. Like,
Yeah.
I was there for 7 years, over 7 years, and my claim to fame is that I was the longest running employee that never danced there, that I never went, like, 'cause some of the waitresses would just do it for fun, like someone would convince you to do it, or you'd go in drinking on your
Yeah.
night off and you get on stage. But like, I want to make it clear that was never because I felt better than that or that that's immoral or something like that. No, no, not at
Yeah.
all. Like I said, when I got this job, I was never fully confident in my looks, not enough to get on stage and have everybody look closely.
Yeah.
So yeah, like it was never a morality question. I think that strip clubs for most, I don't want to say most, strip clubs for a lot of people, I mean, I'm not even
Hmm.
saying men, strip clubs for a lot of people are just a place to relax and have a good time.
Hmm.
And our club was a lot of regulars, but like it never felt creepy that they were regulars. If they weren't coming to our bar, they would have just been at some other normal bar down the street. But like, why wouldn't you choose to see boobs on the stage while you're drinking your beer if that's an option? So like, I never felt anything weird about it. There were definitely
Yeah.
weirdos that came in there. Like there were definitely weird people and weird situations that came in there. But as a whole, in general, just because someone goes to one on a regular basis, I didn't think of them as being a bad person or being weird or being creepy or anything.
Yeah. No, I mean it's definitely a lot to think about too, like through I don't know, maybe today's lens, because you don't really see, I guess, I mean, you do see male strip clubs exist, but like almost more as like a gimmick.
I hate male strip clubs. I love men, but it is a gimmick. It's a joke. It's
Yeah.
to embarrass the women in the audience most of the time. I don't like that. Like, there's never a time, maybe on the exception of maybe putting a birthday boy on stage, there's never a time in the normal strip club where the women's goal is to humiliate the men. And that's what it
Yeah.
feels like when it's the other way around.
That's kind of, I think, a result of the structures of the society that we live in, where, it's almost like women, I don't know. That's where I'm not articulating this point well at all, but I feel like the existence of strip clubs the way that they are a bit icky in the sense that men are observing women from like a male
Yeah.
centered gaze. And I do think that's why, maybe some of for example, in Berlin, like you mentioned earlier, the sex clubs here, not all of them, but in general, I would say those are more like queer spaces than they are, I guess, heteronormative, just staring and being like, starey. But
That's
yeah, it's something to think about. I don't know why it kind of get because I'm not anti stripper, if you want to I have friends who actually like paid for university
yeah.
as a stripper and total respect, and they're just good dancers, and so it was a perfect job. But it's one of those I'm like, oh, the institution. I'm like, I don't know, it's an interesting.
That being said, though, I will say that, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with or women going to strip clubs. I don't think there's anything wrong with men or women working at strip clubs. However, working at the strip club made me hate men for a long time. And it wasn't because, I mean, it was because it was a strip club and it wasn't because it was a strip club.
Mhm.
I think working the door at almost any bar might have made me hate men that much. It's just that 90% of our clientele were men, but you're seeing them at their worst. And it has nothing to do with the naked women. They're just drunk and they're in a place where their wives aren't and their inhibitions are gone and they're doing all their stuff. And then
But
my
that's not an
job,
excuse. That's not an
no, no,
excuse though,
not at
to
all.
be like they're at their worst because their wives aren't there. Like, ew, ew.
Exactly. And I agree. And I'm not saying that's what I mean is like it's not a lot of
Yeah.
them, but I'm saying that when there were ones that were like that and were problems, it was my job to deal with them. So it wasn't just like I was in a cocktail waitress where once the problem happened, I could shoo it out the door and get rid of it. It was my job to deal with them at their worst. Like I also have a lot of bias against relate like I could never be I don't want to say never, but I have a hard time forming relationships with people that are in the military because of this job. Because again, these guys would go to war at a very young age and go fight these battles. And then they would come into the club, and the club was 21 and up. And so there's all these kids that I'm having to tell them no and be the bad guy. And then they're probably already drunk because they were drinking at the barracks. And now they're standing at my door yelling at me and calling me names. And so, like, like I have my own biases against military for that same reason. Does that make the
Hmm.
military bad people? No, not at all. It's just that I saw them at their worst. Um,
Yeah.
so there were like a few years there where like I was really mean when I would be at a normal bar and a guy would approach me and in the nicest, most wholesome way possible. But I would still be like, I'm with my friends. Bug off, like,
Yeah. Well, I don't know, because that's kind of begs the question. It's like, why are the icky ones going to this place? You know, why are the
That's what I think. I think honestly, I think if I was the door girl at a normal bar, I would have also had the same feelings because it's just drunk, icky people in general. And it just so happens that I work at a bar where 90% of our clientele are men. So all of the drunk, icky people that I'm dealing with are men. It was very
Mm,
rare that I was dealing with drunk, icky women. It happened occasionally, but like,
yeah.
like if I worked at a regular bar, I would probably just hate people in general. So yeah,
No, no, that's fair.
I don't blame it on the strip club because I did have so many like regular customers who even to this day, like I don't know how long I've been away from there, 15 years. 15 years I've been gone and I'm still good friends with a lot of our regular customers.
That's pretty good. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
that says a lot. Yeah. I mean, that in itself is pretty cool. All
And
right.
and I'm
Well,
still like the last person most people would think would work there. So
yeah. No, I mean, I remember meeting you because I met you in the context of we were teaching in Indonesia together, and then we moved to Chile and then China, and we've lived in a bunch of places. And yeah, I remember you pulling that one out, and we were like, what? And then, yeah, lots of stories ensued. So,
yeah.
yeah, it was perfect. But yeah, we are hitting at the end of kind of the time cap that I'm trying to keep these episodes under.
The strip club was
But yeah,
definitely fun.
yeah, I loved this. I loved running through all those jobs. I loved that I got to hear a new Sandy story today as well, even after all these years. That's
Every
always
time you think I'm
surprising.
gone.
Yeah, one day I've always said you need to write a book. I feel like the stories that you have is they are plentiful.
Yeah. I mean, if there's any ghostwriters out there that are willing to work for free, call me. We'll hook up. I also love to write. It's just like you heard how many I just have about just my jobs. There's so many connections to other things. I get off track. Like I can't tell my story without telling five other people's stories. Like, so I need someone to rein it in.
You're not trying to climb the corporate ladder, but yeah, there's some good stories that have been made along the way. That's for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on today.
My
And yeah,
pleasure.
this was a delight. And yeah, I'm sure I'll talk to you very, very soon.
I feel like now those jobs weren't all useless because they led me to you. Have
Aw.
a great day. I'll see you later. Bye, sweetie.